we're starting a dialogue, you know? And when you do that, this healing happens.
If I'm bored or uninterested for even like 5 seconds, I'm bouncing and watching something else.
You need to make 100 videos.
Stay away from bad language, sensitive topics, and political views.
But each video has to be better and better and better.
You have to express yourself, and to express yourself, you have to know yourself.
Go, go, go. Like, everything is content.
I think you kind of have to fake it till you make it.
Also, try and keep your opinions to a minimum.
And you have to be willing to play the fool.
Your first video will hopefully be
the crappiest video that you ever make in your career.
My name is Nikkor, and I'm a digital artist from Hamburg, Germany. And I think I have a confession to make, and that is I'm just addicted to buying new technology for the wrong reasons, I guess. Now, I think it's safe to say that I own a ton of different cameras, but almost every piece of work that I'm genuinely proud of revolves around working with a camera in some way. I use cameras in order to create textures or composites or filming an entire short film. If I can use a camera, I'm kind of in my happy place. But for the past 20 years or so, I was constantly trying to level up my gear until I was finally able to buy the most sophisticated hybrid mirrorless camera in the world. But with each new camera, it didn't take me very long to hate it for its limitations rather than being happy about more creative freedom. And just recently I found out that I like to shoot film cameras that don't even have batteries. But let me explain. See, I've been a graphic designer for something like 15 years now, and cameras have always been at the core of my work. However, I'm not a photographer, nor am I a DOP or something, but I've been trying to incorporate videos and photos wherever I could, because this is just my preferred way to express myself as an artist. In fact, I had my first camera in 1986 when I was like 5 years old. It was an Achromatic Pocket, and I loved it so much, but mostly for tactile reasons.
Avec toujours la précision du déclencheur sensor. Achromatic Pocket, l'étonnant petit appareil photo créé par Agfa.
See, it's a great camera. I mean, it's a great camera for a kid. I remember a couple of other cameras that I have been using in my childhood, but when my dad got his Minolta 7000, it really hit me.
The Minolta 7000. It's the world's first SLR with built-in autofocus. The Minolta 7000 focuses automatically. The incredible autofocus system. The Minolta 7000.
At the same time, my dad got the revolutionary Blaupunkt CR8010 Hi8 camcorder, and I would start shooting all sorts of crazy Michael Jackson-inspired kind of music videos with my little brother, which I can't show you because my mom trashed them all because she probably thought it's porn.
She's beautiful.
And I did my thing for like another 10 years growing up. And then technology struck again when Canon released the EOS Elan 7E, which was eye control. It used infrared to detect your eye movement and determine focusing areas. I mean, we're talking proper Apple Vision Pro technology here. I started learning about the exposure triangle and different film stocks, and I was really trying to get serious about the whole photography thing. But I was ready to move on to the next thing, and that was my first Sony Cybershot. And I was shooting all sorts of different experiments like long exposures and macro shots, and I was hooked. So I started studying graphic design, and my final graduation project was a fictitious Nike commercial, which was shot at a super cool film production company here in Hamburg. They were very supportive, and so I was able to use one of their gigantic green screen studios and basically all of their equipment. So I moved on again and started working in the motion graphics industry, which I enjoyed incredibly. And at the same time, I was allowed to create some concepts for TV show intros. And sometimes we would even execute them with one of the first Canon 5D Mark IIs in the late 2000s. But
I was kind of bored, both as an artist and as a designer, so I went freelance and tried to make room for some experimental work and kind of blurring the line between motion graphics and practical effects. So I decided to learn Houdini, but ditched the plan after 2 weeks because I was lacking both patience and intelligence.
Instead, I built a makeshift overhead rig kind of thing in my basement, and I bought a Panasonic GH5 and I started shooting a short film set in space with acrylic paint and chemicals. And all of a sudden, I felt like a little boy again, creating something without thinking in disciplines. Then there was this woman from Warner Brothers calling me, and she basically asked if she could license the whole film and hand it over to her VFX team so that they could use it as plates for a TV show called Castle Rock.
I was stoked to play with basically everything I could find in my basement, including gasoline and graphite, lasers, beet juice, steel wool and dry ice. Well, I didn't technically find dry ice in my basement.
And so I shot another short film for some Australian business festival called Pause Fest, and the footage was shown at LAX in Los Angeles for a couple of weeks. Insane project, and it kind of landed me my dream job. There was someone reaching out asking if I would be down to join forces with 4 other artists I deeply admire, creating an 8-minute visual trip for the largest mobile dome projection in the world at Coachella.
This is the sickest shit at Coachella.
Thank you.
Another GH5 gig, and I remember the final resolution of that projection was 5K, and the GH5 was barely able to handle that. So I was convinced that I needed another new camera, which was the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. At the same time, I bought a Nikon Z6 because I needed, a better stills camera. So at that time, I had 3 cameras actually. So I kept going, shooting loads of screen fills and backdrops and intro sequence assets, and I was blown away by the dynamic range and the color grading latitude of the Blackmagic. And I started working on some super trippy stuff using MoGraph assets shot through a stack of glass elements and prisms for a passion project called Core Memories. Again, all play, no work, on the hunt for visual excellence through highest definition footage my money can buy.
It's getting dark outside. I had to go inside. But the good thing is we should have better sound over here. So in 2021, I moved places because we got a dog and we needed more space. And that led me to rebuild my studio. At that time, I decided to sell all of my gear, including the Nikon Z6 and the Blackmagic. And as a replacement, I bought the freaking Sony Alpha 1. Pinnacle, top-notch, bleeding-edge technology. So I kept going, shooting even more liquid insanity. For example, recreating Milk and Blood for the main title sequence of an episode of American Horror Stories, and some assets for the Tampa Bay Rays. But now that I own this incredible tool, I almost feel like I just finished a marathon. I mean, not that I knew how it is to finish a marathon, and from what I hear, dopamine is kicking in once you're done. So the whole analogy doesn't even make sense, but you kind of get the idea, right? But no matter how hard I try to hate the Sony Alpha 1, it's just simply not possible. It has an electronic shutter with a maximum shutter speed of 1/32,000th of a second. It has a 50 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor shooting up to 30 frames per second with incredible low light performance. In video mode, it shoots glorious S-Log3 footage in 8K or 120 frames per second in 4K. It is weather sealed, it has in-body stabilization, and it comes with 15 stops of dynamic range. There's just virtually nothing you could ever fucking ask for. But after a couple of years of seriously grinding in this industry and basically spending all of my spare money on high-end technology, I realized that I needed to chill. So I thought, why not stepping aside from the marvels of modern photography and going down the path of film photography. And luckily, my father-in-law owns a Hasselblad 500 cm which he generously borrowed me for a while. And this thing is a whole new challenge for a die-hard digital shooter with basically little to no education like me. It is modular, it is fully mechanical, it doesn't even have a built-in light meter, and it is the perfect tool for mental decompression because there's a plethora of things to think about before you even take the first picture. You gotta load the right film, you gotta do the whole metering thing, you gotta take out the dark slide, focus manually, which is a major pain in the ass with flipped horizontals using the focusing screen. You gotta remember the Hasselblad grip, and then you take the f***ing picture, which will eventually make you doubt your whole existence as a creative person a week later when it's back from development. Now, maybe that is what it's all about, like balance, right? Because if you're like me and you realize that no limit gear is perfectly compensating your limited creative vision, then you might also gravitate towards the oddly satisfying terrors of vintage mechanical photography. And even more so, I think photography is getting you out of your comfort zone. I mean, it's annoying and can be terrifying at times. And the yield in how many pictures are actually keepers is terrifyingly low, which especially shows when you're shooting film, right? And I'm not gonna lie, when I got into this a couple of months ago, I thought I would really master this in no time. And let me tell you this, I wasn't. But that's what got me. I mean, there's a challenge to be solved, and there's ups and downs, and you're very likely to fail, while shooting digital has almost become idiot-proof. And I think it's really worth it, because sometimes, like every other year or so, you're taking a picture and it's gonna stay with you forever. And that's something only photography can achieve. But it really helps if you know what you're doing, and there's just one way to approach this, and that is to just do it. So with that being said, I invite you to join me exploring this and most probably watch me crumble trying to get at least one single decently exposed photo from the Hasselblad on the next episode.
Thank you.